Hello and welcome to Local Supporting Locals, the heartbeat of the Okanagan radio show. I am your host, Kevin Proto, and I am joined by my lovely powerhouse of a co-host, Dee Nicholson. How are you, Dee?
How can you be lovely and a powerhouse at the same time?
Yeah, well, keep the lady thing in there, you know.
I don't wear this thing you keep talking about.
Yeah. I know. We have a very special that we're going to be doing monthly night where we're going to have our rant. A lot of issues.
Sort of like a period.
You got away with words there, Dee.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what? Not to get cursed.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of wrongdoings going on in our world right now that are affecting us, whether it be locally or not so locally. And we really need to talk about these and break it down because, again, this is why internet radio, alternative media, or new media exists. Because we're not getting properly informed from our mainstream media here. And that's what this show today is about a lot of these issues here. And so just let people in Okanagan, just as a friendly reminder, we are working on our third annual calendar here. So if you're a locally owned business or ethical farmer and you wish to participate in our third annual South Okanagan calendar, by all means, look us up at localsupportinglocals.ca.
Let me jump in here. Let me jump in just for a second. Wherever you are in the world, if you check out localsupportinglocals.ca and see something that you like to institute with your own community, Local Supporting Locals stands as an exemplar of what should be going on everywhere. So we're looking to expand. We're looking to make local support locals everywhere on the planet because that's how people survive and thrive.
And that's where the change is at local level.
Exactly. So the bottom line is feel free to contact and locals at the Local Supporting Locals website. If you see something there that should be and could be instituted where you live, by all means. We're not looking for, patent protection here. We're looking for a better world. And because of that, the example of Local Supporting Locals is a very powerful and very positive message for everybody.
Absolutely, and thanks for that, Dee, because, I mean, there will be invitations to ride the coattails of Local Supporting Locals. There is only one, and here in our own here, so by all means, contact us at localsupportinglocals.ca. Just to get into the show tonight here, there's so many issues here. Dee, what would you like to start off?
Oh my God!
What would you like to start off with?
Oh my God! Which fish in this barrel do I want to shoot first? And they keep wiggling. So the importance of them dwindles and gets bigger and then dwindles again as you go through the week, but the issues themselves remain. And, one of the biggest issues that everybody's looking at right now, well, there's two of them really. There's all the hot spot in the Ukraine and the hot spot in Israel and Gaza. And really what we're looking at is a moral imperative here. When you're looking at Israel and Gaza, you're looking at one very powerful nation that receives all kinds of aid from the United States, and I'm speaking of Israel. They receive $3 billion worth of military aid, whether they need it or not, on an annual basis from United States taxpayers. And essentially, you've got a bunch of Palestinians sitting there with pop guns, lobbing rocks into Israel, but somehow or another, by the time it hits the mainstream media, all of a sudden, all of these Palestinians are the superior force and they're on poor little Israel. Well, in fact, the opposite is true. Big ol' Israel is picking on poor little Gaza. Why are they doing that? Well, they want the whole They want the whole territory. They always have. This is not news. And then we have to look at who exactly is pushing this. Because what happens is, if you start criticizing anything that Israel does, whether you say they're committing war crimes by dumping white phosphorus bombs on Gaza, or hitting hospitals, or hitting schools, or wiping out civilian women, children, and pregnant women and babies and everything else, no matter what it is, no larger nation should be shooting at any smaller nation. And that isn't an Israeli thing. It's a moral thing, period. End of story. And furthermore, judging from the reports that we've had this week, the mainstream news media are not covering the humongous protests going on in Tel Aviv and elsewhere in Israel against their own government, saying, not in our name, you're not going to do this. And hundreds of thousands of people came out in New York the other day. New York is full of Jewish people, and they're saying, not in our name. So we must be very careful and very honest in terms of our separation of people and state in this regard, because in no way is anything that we are saying to be construed as anything anti-Semitic. Okay?
Well, but as well, Dee, though, even in West Bank, in Israel, their own people, Jewish people, are also protesting in mass numbers as well.
Of course they are. Of course they are, because anybody who has any kind of humanitarian sense in their body, anybody, is going to say, this is not right. This is not right. These children and babies being killed at random. They did nothing. All they did was get born. Right.
Well, on top of that, they're supposed to be in a safe place. That's the building from the UN there, and that's supposed to be a safe zone. And apparently, they've been told time and time again of that location, and they still bombed it anyways.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, in the past while, the Israelis have bombed not only a UN headquarters in Gaza, but now also a UN school that is being used to shelter thousands of refugees. So in other words, they're deliberately targeting civilians. Now, when you're deliberately targeting civilians under all of the Geneva Conventions, that is a war crime. Sorry for your luck, pal. That's a war crime. Now, I'm sorry, but I cannot support any nation that commits war crimes, and that would include my own. If this was Harper doing the same thing, I would be just as against Harper. This is not a Semitic thing. It has nothing to do with faith. It has nothing to do with Muslims. It has nothing to do with Jews. What it has to do with is a bunch of guys who are bullies in the schoolyard, big guys picking on little guys, and everybody else going, that's okay. Israel has a right to defend herself, yeah, against a credible threat. But then so does Gaza. So does Palestine. Because if Israel has the right of self-defense, so does Palestine. So do we.
Absolutely.
So it's either a right that is non-exclusive or it's not a right at all.
I couldn't agree more. Can you, with your knowledge here, Dee, can you tell us a little bit about the background behind who the leaders are for the Israeli government?
Well. Oh, you asked the right question there. You asked the right question there, Kev, because I got some really neat information in. I say it's neat because it's kind of unexpected. It's not something that I ever figured would come my way, because it's not something you generally need to consider. However, here is, let me see now, where did it go? Here we go. I'm looking at links here. Now, this little email came in to me a day or two ago, and it shows that the so-called Israelites that are occupying Israel, which of course is a made-up nation, are not Israelis. They're not Arabs. They don't have bloodline there. They don't have history there. Okay, and here's the proof of it. Okay? I'm naming here a whole bunch of very famous Jewish people who have run Israel in one way or another. These are all prime ministers, okay? And this is every single prime minister that has ever existed of Israel, because Israel didn't exist before World War II, okay? Now we start with David Ben-Gurion, okay? David Ben-Gurion was born in Poland, okay? Then we had Menachem Begin. Where was he born? Belarus. Then we have Golda Meir, whose birth name was Golda Mabovich, born in Kiev, Ukraine. Then we have Yitzhak Shamir, whose birth name was Itzhak Jeziernicki, born in Belarus. Then we have Shimon Peres, birth name Shimon Persky, born in Poland. We have Ariel Sharon, and his parents were from Belarus. Then we have Benjamin Netanyahu, also from a Polish family. His father was Benzion Melikovsky. They changed their name to Netanyahu.
Wow.
Okay, so there's every prime minister of Israel has been a European origin. Every single one. Now that's real interesting, because the same areas that they're talking about here are the same ones that were basically controlled by the Nazis during World War II. Isn't that interesting? Then, oh yes, another piece came into me. Okay, now this is really rather choice, okay? Title on it: Psychiatrist of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu commits suicide. Anguish suicide note cites deluge of doublethink in driving kind-hearted shrink to despair. Okay. Now,
wow.
This story says Moshe Yatom, who was a prominent Israeli psychiatrist, he had been working with extreme forms of mental illness throughout a long and distinguished career. Found dead in his home in Tel Aviv. This is posted July 27th, so I'm presuming this was around the 26th that he died, from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. His suicide note explained that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who had been his patient for the last 9 years, had, quote, sucked the life right out of me, end quote. I can't take it anymore, wrote Yatom. Robbery is redemption, apartheid is freedom, peace activists are terrorists, murder is self-defense, piracy is legality, Palestinians are Jordanians, annexation is liberation, there's no end to his contradictions. Freud promised rationality would rein in the instinctual passions, but he never met Bibi Netanyahu. This guy would say Gandhi invented brass knuckles. So
he's running the Israeli government right now.
He's running the Israeli government, and here's a guy who couldn't tell the truth until he killed himself, because it was a patient. Now that he's dead, nobody cares. He can talk, right? So he leaves a suicide note giving out the truth that he could never give out before because of the fact it was patient confidentiality. The guy shoots himself in the head, okay, apparently. Shoots himself in the head, but not before confessing all of Netanyahu's crimes.
Well, it would always beg me to question here if this note or this letter was left in the hands of somebody confidant in the event of.
Well, yeah, it sounds like one of those, doesn't it? You know,
Yeah.
you want to hope that maybe he did write something like that, and that they will discover it. You know, maybe it's a reading of the will or whatever. But I mean, they're going to bury him. They've already stuck him in the ground, so they'll be reading the will right quick.
Well, because I mean, it's surprising, you know, with and again, people need to understand the power and what they control. Like all our media, mainstream media, and you can tell by the one-sidedness on watching all mainstream media in regards to what's taking place in Israel. It's all geared towards, you know, Israel has to protect itself. You know,
yeah. Well, you see, this is kind of an interesting point that you raised, because what we have is a situation where in every aspect of our lives, they're trying to collectivize us. In other words, they're trying to get us all to think the same way for the same reason. Oh. And when we do that, we're very easy as population to control. Now, here's the problem. What they're trying to do here is they're trying to make everybody think the same way about stuff that people already think another way about. You know, this is morally, what's going on in Israel right now is morally offensive to a great many people, including Jewish people, right? No matter where they are. I mean, I hate to use the old cliche, but I do have a lot of Jewish friends, and I know damn well that none of them could stand having guilt for such atrocities that are going on in Gaza right now. And
I've often said too that you know, World War II never ended; it just went underground, and now it's resurfacing. It's got teeth.
Bearing in mind that war is always basically a corporate and commercial enterprise, what you're looking at is basically a situation putting a sign on it and saying under new management.
Yeah.
Because that's all they're doing, is they're switching management and switching locations. We've moved down the street to Belarus today, or we've moved down the street to Vietnam, or we've moved over to Libya, or to Egypt, or to wherever.
Well, actually, let's bring it even closer to home here, Canada and United States, because with all the military weapons, tanks, trucks, you name it, that were made for the war in Iraq and Afghanistan are now being sold to our local city, the police departments, and our RCMP now.
Oh yeah, this is terrifying. You're talking about the militarization of our police. Our police are basically, people have to understand that this was not going on in Canada before Harper signed the Security and Prosperity Partnership with the United States. That Security and Prosperity Partnership, which has a very benign title, essentially ties us to follow any security operational techniques that are used by the United States. So while the United States military, and we're talking the military-industrial complex here, okay, so far the military has been basically playing on the down low. All they've done is show up and shoot. But policy-wise, their interference and their involvement has really been on the down low. But here what you're seeing the military-industrial complex in full swing. Okay, you're talking about war as a commercial enterprise. So yes, it is an ongoing thing. It does not stop. It just changes addresses. It just changes addresses. And in the meantime, all the players remain the same.
Yep.
They all remain the same.
Even in Kelowna here, in our Okanagan, there was this big Sherman tank for the police department, or for the RCMP, and just driving around. It wasn't even on a mission or a call or anything.
Kevin, what are they going to use a tank for in Penticton? A heavy moose?
Well, I mean, that's again where they got to ramp it up there because, for drug raids and all. But the funny thing and it's not funny, but I was on a bus, and I'm standing beside the bus driver, and this Sherman tank, or whatever you want to call it, was passing by. It was passing by, and the bus driver said, "Oh, isn't that cool?" And so I looked at him. I says, "What's so cool about that?" I said, "Did we enter into a military state? Like, are we under attack right now?" I said, "Could you imagine what tourists would think coming here to Kelowna, well, like one of the tourist capitals? Like the Okanagan is just beautiful. For those who have never been, Google it. It's gorgeous. But I mean, he's doing a drive around, for God's sakes. You know,
for what? What's the deal? Like I said, is he picking up a dead moose? What's the deal?
Yeah, I know. So the bus driver thought about it again. He says, "You got a good point there, son." You know, and I said, "Nah, I know." I said, "People really need to take a look at this." But on top of that, too, and I forget how many million, I think it's 40-something million, they're putting into building a new RCMP detachment in Kelowna. And on top of that, from what I understand, there's a lot of things that are tried and tested in Kelowna and in Ontario. But apparently you and I are in both the hot spots here. Isn't that funny? And if they pass it here and it goes through, then it applies across Canada, hence the Green Agenda, the UN Agenda 21, where a lot of things are being implemented in BC and in Ontario.
It's just so harmonious. This is all harmonization, okay? Now, a long time ago, the health freedom people said harm-onization, and they were right.
Yep. Because
essentially what they're doing, again, they're collectivizing our thoughts. They're collectivizing our methodology. This is one-size-fits-all law. Now, as we all know, one size does not fit all. Any woman who's ever tried on one-size-fits-all pantyhose knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay?
Yeah.
So this is not a one-size-fits-all world. This is a world of snowflakes. Everything is individual. Everything is special. Everything is beautiful in its own way, and everything is individual. There is no way we can successfully collectivize anything and have anybody happy. So when they talk about collectivization, which they don't use really, they use harmonization. Really what they're doing is they will say, oh, it'll lead to a united and unified world. No, it will lead to a homogenized world where good and bad are blended up to be not so much. Right? If we don't have comparison, we can't make decisions, okay? You got to know two sides of anything in order to make a decision, right? That's just the way it is. And there are certain things you can't know without comparison. For example, you can't know cold unless you know hot, and vice versa. You can't know up unless you know down. You have to have something that is opposing it. They are two sides of the same coin. Now, if they collectivize everything, okay, if they harmonize everything, where is that objectivity going to be found? It won't. So, in essence, what they're doing psychologically, they are crippling the entire planet by putting in one-size-fits-all anything.
And that's why globalization does not work. It's impossible. I mean, look at the difficulties just of local governments.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
This is the thing. They're going to try anyway. They're going to try anyway, and they're going to try because in their nice little sinecures sitting on their rivers of wealth that are so broad and so deep and so long, you could not imagine them in your wildest dreams. You couldn't imagine how much money is filtering to, and by virtue of money being worth really bugger all anyway because it's not backed by anything. But they've got control of all the gold in the world. They've got control of all the valuables in the world. They got control of pretty much all the food in the world. They got control of pretty much all the water in the world. What the hell else is there left for ordinary people to control?
Okay, now you just touch onto another subject that we got to segue into. It's the water issue, because for those who did pick up the calendar for locals supporting locals, I really wish I had put it in the first 4 pages, but there's just so much awareness out there. But there was an article on Nestle being caught. I don't even know if you want to say caught, because it's not like they're stopped. Stealing over 276 million liters of water out of the Fraser Valley River here in BC. And that's not the first. I mean, this is it's also in Ontario as well, and globally Nestle's been doing this.
These guys are not the corporate nice guys that you think they are. They're just not. They're just not. And to get you to drink more of their product, they even have a new product out called Nesfruta. Okay, Nesfruta. I kid you not. Nesfruta. You can look it up. It's like that Mio. You squirt it into your water, and it makes it flavorful. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, I looked up the ingredients on it. It's all garbage.
Of course, corn fructose.
Right. So here they are, and they're saying, oh, water's good for you, but hey, if that's too bland for you, try this. Now we've got 2 products to sell to you. And if our water bores you, our Nesfruta will not. And in the meantime, people are picking up a bottle of Nestle, okay, which, by the way, when we did some electrostatic testing on it at the Total Health Show a few years ago, we found was the worst quality water you could buy. We ran electrodes through it, and more stuff fell out of Nestle water than out of any other brand we used.
Wow. Well,
oh yeah, it was solid green gunk at the bottom of your glass. Solid green gunk.
Okay, but let's talk about the CEO of Nestle, where he came out, and it's on YouTube, folks. You can go and Google this, and I'd have to look at it myself here to give you the exact title here, but just put in your Google search bar, and you can always find anything here. But Nestle's COO says that water is not a right; it's a privilege.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's how come all the rich people with the big fat lawns in Los Angeles, where they have absolutely no reason to have lawns, and they're in an arid area anyway, they got no business having stuff they need to water all the time. That's why palm trees grow. They grow in sand with very little water. Okay? But they got lawns down there in these massive big estates. So here it is, and they've got a drought in California. Now, is the drought man-made or is it natural? Well, we don't know, and we can't speculate. Well, we can, but, you know, at any rate, they have this massive drought. So what are they doing? They're draining the farmland, okay? The farmland, which is the fruit and veg basket of North America, they're draining the farmland water to give it to LA residents and other residents of cities to feed their lawns with. And they do this before they institute the restrictions that say you can be fined $500 for watering your lawn. So, in other words, they're robbing Peter to pay Paul, because if you take the water away from the farmland, you kill the food. So in order to feed the people in the city water, they're killing the farmland, and they're going to starve the people later. Now, this makes absolutely no sense to me, because, you know what? There are countries around the world that have to use desalinization machines for all of their water. And California, A, has the money. By virtue of all the money being made in that state, they've got the money. And if they're going to tell me they're broke, I say fire your managers, you need new ones. But they've got the money, they've got the technology, and they got the freaking ocean sitting right there.
Well, that's a mistake. Well, and it's funny, they only showed it once there. I forget if it was Haiti or Chile, where Canada actually sent up one of their submarines, military submarines, where they had the desalinization system in the submarine and were able to turn it into drinkable water for the people.
It's
and it was
very
coming out
easy.
of sludge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very easy to do. I mean, all you're talking about is a distillation process, right? A distillation and filtration thing. So, I mean, you can either distill it or you can filter it out. But bottom line is, salt water is simply water and salt. Take the salt out, you got water.
Yeah, but that sounds too easy there. Like you should make this more difficult.
I didn't say that was the technique, honey.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just saying there's your bottom line. So they've got the technology. Why are they not using it? They've got a ton of water available. Just looking at them, look out your front window and you see ocean. You know, and yet people are starving for water. Well, why are you not investing in desalinization so you never go through another drought? And so you're already prepared.
No, I know, but Dee, then this is where you draw it right back to the beginning of our rant here, is who's running the Israeli government, right?
Yeah, so who's running any government is what it comes down to.
Okay, I know. Okay, but so what people need to understand, this is part of the globalization agenda here, the one world government. Yeah, you know, so stop asking all these, why, this is what the agenda is at the end of the day. You got to wake up to it. And it's not to be fearful of this, and this is not the point of our radio show either. It's a matter, basically what Dee and I are trying to do with you folks that are listening that are like, oh my God, is we're trying to poke and prod you to make you mad and get you off your butt and go back and take your local government back and abstain from a lot of these laws and trade agreements, all this crap coming through. Whether they tell you can do it or you can't do it, you got no choice. This needs to stop now. And if we all start to do that, then we can start making a difference here. But
the bottom line ultimately is that people get what they allow. And you know that old saying, evil thrives when good men do nothing. Well, good men are doing nothing, and evil is thriving. And the sooner we get a grip on the fact that evil is thriving because good men are doing nothing, the sooner a few good men might get down to doing something about it. You know, but none of us can do anything while we sit in our armchairs and watch football.
Well, it's a great thing has happened, and I can't say much on it right now, but that's one of the biggest things that supporting locals works on. Again, you know, if you think like people need to understand like with the calendars and the website, this is advertising with a purpose here, and the purpose is again about taking back our local government powers here again. You know, we found somebody here that that we're going to help to get elected here, and I'll just leave it at that. But I don't want to let too much out there.
Well, it's not just there in the Okanagan either. Don't forget, we've got a couple of council candidates here, you know, in Toronto, who are basically voicing the same opinions. And when you start to stand up and say things and educate people, some of these people start to step forward because there are a lot of like minds out there. You know, we're scattered. People are scattered. And they always feel safety in numbers, but they don't see the numbers. And because they don't see the numbers, they don't take action. This is one thing that we don't tend to do is stand up by ourselves.
Well, you know, and it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of guts to do that. It's the same thing, you know what, like I tell people with the march against Monsanto, and we'll swing over to GMO soon there for some of those folks. That's
you
another
really
one.
Want to have fun tonight, don't you?
Oh, it's time to rock and roll. That's
oh, well, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
You know, but I mean, if you had told me 10 years ago that I would be in front of a few hundred people with a megaphone saying, hey, ho, ho, GMOs have got to go, I would have told you got a serious drug problem or you're drinking too much. But the thing is once you know, you have to do something. You know, and again, it's not saying that everybody needs to grab a megaphone here, but you got to find your way in the skills that you have, with locals supporting locals, for example, we can always use some great graphic designers, video editors, writers. There's so much involved in doing the work that we got to do.
And contributors from, like linking to other sites. I mean, if our listeners know of a site that, we should be linked up with, hello, send it to us. Give us the information. We can't share it with you if you don't give it to us or if we don't have it. So if you've got something that you consider to be worthy of other people's concerns and you want to air that, well, you know how to do it.
Well, yeah, we got a link page. We got link pages on our the locals website too. But at the same token, too, if you want to, if you're able to sponsor or donate in some way, so that we can move things forward a lot quicker here, because this was something that I founded back in 2010, and now it's no longer it's a we, and this was operated with lint in our pocket. And the calendars were created to help fund the project, because that's what it is at the end of the day. Local supporting locals is a project. It's ongoing. It's changing at all times, and it's just growing. So if you're able to sponsor,
the thing is, it's like locals supporting locals is like a small town or a community. Okay, every day in any community worldwide, new things happen. And consequently, every day somebody is asked to support somebody one way or another that is different from the day before. So you're talking about an organization that has to be as flexible and able to morph from one thing to another as a community has to in order to thrive. And also what you're talking about is the ability for people to communicate with each other, share the information that needs sharing so that the community can respond.
Well, and that's why we have, on August 17th, I'm throwing it out there for the folks here that are in our Okanagan here, we're having a gathering and a farewell, because one of our local ethical natural farmers is moving from their farmland. And so we're still looking at creating the title here, but because we have these ongoing where we have meetings and get-togethers and we discuss issues, but more importantly, we discuss solutions here. But we're bringing in a local band, and it's a potluck, and a lot of organic produce will be on location as well from the farmer, but it's still a potluck. And the best thing about the way we do it too is we don't come up from a fear base. We play music, everybody dances, then we talk about the issues, then we dance, we release that energy, that negative energy that it takes, to go through these issues, because this is information, and some of it, it's like GMOs is one of the biggest issues.
I don't want to make light of this, Kevin, but it sounds an awful lot like musical chairs.
Why is that?
Well, first we discuss things and then the music plays, so we run around a little bit, then we sit down.
Yeah, well, sadly, and I go to our council meetings, a lot of important issues just aren't being discussed, and yet everybody, like GMOs, for example, I'm still working in regards to following up with the city of Penticton here in regards to what they did in Richmond and banning the sale of GMO seeds within our city limits, but it should be our local government, that's actually city council, that's bringing that up, because it's such a massive world concern, and they're not. Yeah.
Well, you're looking at study after study that is coming out now, and some of these studies are not exactly young. You're looking at, longer-term studies that were started a long time ago but are now just being published. And they're showing harm and damage that is unreal. And I know that you received, in the last little while, a communication from Alex Adamanenko, the MP for, what is he, Nanaimo or something?
No, he's the Southern Interior. So
Okay, whatever. At any rate, there'd be Kamloops area and stuff.
Well, it would be Oliver, Karamios, Costin, the bottom end of the South Okanagan, which is going to change now. But he's truly one of the only, because we don't support party politics. But just as an added note, Alex Adamanenko has done his utmost best in representing his constituents and speaking out and trying to protect farmers and people from GMOs.
He's a Canadian hero for sure, but he got a letter from a fellow by the name of John Balatinish from Toronto, and he's a retired professor. Notice how the whistleblowers all come out after they're retired?
I know.
Isn't that funny? You know, it's like, I ain't saying a word while you're paying me, man, but the minute you stop paying me, I'm all over your ass, right? That's basically that's how it is, right?
Yeah.
Once they are getting their pension, it's bye-bye now, I'm opening my mouth. Well, you know, I don't care about that factor. I just wish that a lot more of them would risk their jobs, because if they stood together, they wouldn't be risking their jobs.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
but anyway,
that brings up Dr. Shiv Chopra, because that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, I know. Well, let me get to this. Okay. So we've got this point that was brought up. Yeah. Okay, and people don't understand the actual dangers of GMOs. It actually is, the stuff is actually dangerous because there is no predicting. They take a gene, okay, and they insert it into a living organism. Now, the donor gene may come from anything: plants, animals, insects, viruses, fungi, bacteria, whatever. And once that happens, they alter the genome, which is the genetic, that's a complete set of DNA characteristics of any organism. They're altering that. Now, when they do that, proteins are formed because these things interact chemically with each other, and they don't know until much later what the effects of these proteins could be over the course of time. So the risk is that these rogue proteins and the altered genome of the host, because once that genome is altered, the DNA is not the same as the original organism. So that means the livestock that we consume, the plants that we consume, the ingredients in processed foods that we consume, all of that is being altered. And once it is altered, you cannot unring the bell. Now, what is at stake here, and this is a really clear, I hope you're going to post this on Local Supporting Locals. I didn't ask you if you had or not, but this is a really important little piece, and it's very understandable, which makes it phenomenal. The thing is that people need to understand that this labeling issue of genetically modified organisms is a red herring. It's a false trail. It's a false trail. It is designed to screw us up. And what they are doing is they are essentially getting us to, scream all over the place about labels, when really the problem is cross-pollination. Now, the cross-pollination happens because of wind and insects and non-human factors that can't be stopped. But as we all know about weather modification, they can certainly be influenced now, can't they?
Absolutely.
Okay? So it is, I mean, it may be in the realm of the fantastical to say that. Is it possible that the progenitors of these genetically modified organisms are also able to contact their buddies in weather modification to say, you know, we'd like the jet stream to head this way this week? You know,
now you're going down another path.
I'm going down that rabbit hole, man. I am down there. I got my headlamp on, and I'm down there. I mean, yes, I said this may be in the realm of the fantastical, but it is not out of the realm of the possible. Okay? The thing is that regardless of whether they can direct it or not, the wind isn't going anywhere. Right? We've always had wind. We're always going to have wind, so cross-pollination is an immediate danger. And the day you can show me that a label saying this product contains genetically modified organisms can stop the wind, then they can tell me they've got an argument on labeling.
Well, let's not forget the floods here, eh? What do all the floods cause here, too, eh?
Well, yeah, again, you've got stuff coming out of the ground that gets carried here and there.
Yeah,
and
so,
I
mean, well, it's like you're just saying right now, okay? So they're going to get, and this is how they always do it, is problem, reaction, solution. So people just keep getting mad. We want labeling, okay, God darn it, you get your labeling. You know, now, yay, we won.
Yeah.
But no, you didn't.
No, because you see, here's the point people need to consider, and this is why, you know, when I keep saying to people, you know what, you got to see the big picture, and then they'll come up with a slightly bigger photograph than the one they had. They went from a 3x5 to a 5x7. I'm going, no, a lot bigger than that. Okay, when you get it to fill your freaking living room wall, you're still not going to be big enough. It's that big. The bigger picture is that big, but it's also that simple. Okay? You look at their methods are the same, no matter what they're going to use or do. Their methods are the same. They use the same kind of doublespeak, the same kind of baffle gab, the same kind of rules, the same kind of game plan, no matter what they're doing. And the number one thing is never tell the truth, because if you do, you're done.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So they got that going on. Then you're looking at a situation, particularly with GMOs, where, you know, essentially if they know in advance that if they plant enough of these things, their crops will rule the world, you know, and that means there's nothing else to buy but their product, no matter what you do. So do they care if there's a label on it? No. That's like saying this bag of chips may contain air. You know, it becomes that nonsensical. And they already know. Don't forget, they're thinking 20 years ahead of us. So we got to think 21 years ahead. Well, we've got to think 21 years is what I'm saying. The number's arbitrary. But we got to think a year ahead of them. Like, what are they planning and why are they planning it? If we forget about why are they planning it, we'll never get to the big picture. So it's the why that counts. Well, why don't they care about labeling? Well, because they're taken over anyway. So why should they care? They'll spend a few million fighting it. They'll get a whole bunch of other companies to throw in a few million for fighting it. Right? There's going to be a whole huge argument. Eventually, a whole bunch of people are going to say, we want them labeled. They go, okay, we give up. And they go home snickering. And they're snickering at us because they know within a few years what's going to happen is they own it all anyway. And in the meantime, when we should have been screaming ban and could have gotten a ban because we were all totally coordinated, they diverted us on a level of the labeling issue. And then if we win that, everybody goes home, let's crack the beer and go back to the TV. And then they're in their power position, and we got nothing to say about it. So it's all about seeing that big picture and recognizing it is a freaking big picture. Yes, it is. And they all work together. Okay? At the same time, don't forget, at the same time as these biotech companies are playing this little head game with us over the labeling, okay, they're also developing crops that are aluminum tolerant, that are low light tolerant. What does that tell you? That tells you that they intend chemtrails forever, and that their crops will be the only ones that will survive low light and heavy duty, heavy metal toxicity from aluminum.
Well, and that's what people need to understand here is what the aluminum is doing to the soil is it's making it acidic, so it's destroying a lot of the farm crops here. And we're seeing it here in our Okanagan big time too.
Okay, wait. Now we got to go one more step. Now that we're on to fluoride, because this is a point people also need to understand. Okay, the fluoride that is being bought by all these cities that fluoridate, okay, all comes from 6 major companies, all based in China.
Oh.
Okay. Now, Mike Adams has a new science lab. He tested in his science lab all of the fluoride from all of these different countries, or different companies, and he tested every single one of them for heavy metals and toxicity. You don't even want to think about what's in this stuff. Arsenic, lead, cadmium, strontium-90, it's radioactive. And it's all the fluoride they're using. Okay, just so the folks know, Mike Adams has, I guess, founder or creator of Natural News. Naturalnews.com, people. If you want medical information, natural information, you know, I hate to say I don't like the guy, but notwithstanding, he's got one of the best sites on the planet in terms of good information. But the one reason I don't like the guy is because, and also Ronnie Cummins from the OCA, the Organic Consumers Association, neither one of them is calling for an outright ban on GMOs. And that has me hopping mad at both of them. So there you are. So I'm challenging both of them. Ronnie Cummins, Mike Adams, I double dog dare you. Tell me the truth. Why are you not hopping on a ban on all genetically modified organisms? Why? That's what I know. Well, I mean, yeah, you know, but I mean, and saying what you just said there, you know, it's the same thing with myself with Locals Supporting Locals. Local Supporting Locals is not about me. Sorry, dog's barking. You've got a heckler. Yeah, yes, it's it's a lovely dog. But you know, Local Supporting Locals is a lot bigger than me. It's about we. So it doesn't matter if you don't like me. You know, it's a concept. It's a concept. Exactly. You know, exactly, that's the whole thing. The concept is people living within proximity of one another, treating each other with respect, with care, with compassion, and harmlessly. This is all it's about, and this is what misses in the big cities. It misses in the larger context. It misses in collectivization. It is only found where people reach out a hand to their neighbor. It's only found there. And these are the values that we are lacking. These are the values that aren't in our government anymore. They don't ever reach a hand out to anybody anymore, do they? No, everybody's just concerned about themselves. Into our pocket. Unless it's going into our pocket, then they'll reach their hand out real quick. Well, everything is being controlled by the money, and that's one thing that Dr. Shiv Chopra, who was the head scientist there for Health Canada, for 35 years there. Yeah, and he saved us from RBGH growth hormone in cattle in the dairy industry in this country. That makes him, in my mind, a national hero. Oh, absolutely.
but instead of getting commended, he was fired. And but like he even said, like when it came to the UN, which is another show we've already done. Please visit our archives on sustainability, aka UN Agenda 21. What they do is they bankrupt you to the point that you're so desperate that now you're going to make a deal with the beast. Exactly. And so that's the same thing. Yeah, and that's what's happening for a lot of us in our communities here. And I understand, because, I mean, I go business to business and door to door doing what I do. I try to do as much speaking as I can, and that's what people are concerned about. I got to feed my family.
Yes, exactly. And this is why, like the crack I made about the retired whistleblowers. I appreciate the living bejesus out of all of our whistleblowers. Hell, I am one. Okay? I know what it takes. I know exactly what it takes to become a whistleblower when you've got, essentially, you've got your livelihood is depending on it. I know what that takes. I know what kind of a brick wall that is for people to face. But at this point in time, it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you do say something, you might get into all kinds of trouble. So before you do it, make sure you got some backing. Okay? Make sure you got a lot of people who are going to look after your welfare and notice if you go missing. Okay? And
yes, two-way radios.
Yeah, everybody turns into Dick Tracy.
Absolutely.
It is two-way wrist radio. Very cute. Yeah, CB band radios, that kind of thing. But, seriously, it's like if we do not reach out to each other in exactly the modality of a local supporting locals in many ways, not just, where to buy the best food and look who's growing it and isn't this wonderful and isn't that wonderful, and learning to appreciate what you have around you. But going beyond that and sharing not only that, but the information that people need to know. For example, if parents don't know that there is a possibility of severe bodily damage from vaccines, they're not ever going to do the research that allows them to make an informed decision on whether or not to vaccinate their child. And if people do not know, because government is not telling them what their real options are, well, they can miss out on a whole lot of stuff or be mowed down by a whole lot of other stuff. So we need to get together. We need to reach out to one another. And this is why locals is such an important concept.
Okay, so we're coming in close, and it's sad. It's always sad because Dee, you and I can talk for hours and hours here.
Yeah, but we'll do it again. We'll do it again next month because we're regular as clockwork.
Yeah.